Good. Yep. Good afternoon. It is Monday. I'm actually tempted to get around this morning. uh, Interesting stuff. It is cold. I think the cold killed my battery on my van. So looking at, I guess, probably tomorrow, get a new battery for my van. And my door latch on my truck was frozen and the door wouldn't shut. It thawed out once it warmed up a little bit. But yeah, interesting morning. But we made it. Uh, didn't make it by the post office, so got to get that done. Anyway, hope everybody had a good weekend. Had a pretty good one here. Um, Thanks for everybody that came out and played and bought stuff and hung out and all that stuff. Yeah, inter- interesting. I know I've talked about this a few times out there, but Friday nights were running a little slow. Uh, and once again, that see that more probably during the summer when people out are busy doing stuff. But Friday nights definitely have picked back up. I think once again, cold weather, most of the football and other stuff is wrapping up. So I think you're seeing more people coming in playing games. So thanks to everybody coming out. Continue to do okay. We'll see how we finish out. We're halfway through December. Um, Overall, probably this is going to be. I have to go back and look at the numbers, but looking at probably being our best year yet. Which, you know, being a retail is tough. Does definitely take years to develop your clientele and figure out your clientele, what's going to sell, what's going to not. Still a challenge, but yeah, it looks like going to have our best year yet. And that's not to say I'm rolling in the money. It's like anything else. You know, prices have gone up, margins are going down. Um, the busier you get, the more stuff you have to have in the store, or is it vice versa? The more stuff you have in the store, the busier you get. But they're tied. It's that whole supply and demand for those who had econ in college or high school. It's all tied together. So yeah, and I mentioned being busy, which is a great thing. It's more work, which once again, not a bad thing. My biggest thing is, excuse me for 1 second, my sinuses is changing weather is killing my nose. Um, the thing I'm most excited about, I continue to see first time people come in. Um, have a lot of people traveling, stopping by. This, people. It's holiday season, so people are visiting family and friends. So and they're coming in. So I think uh, 9 years of doing this is finally it's adding up. Um, and got more work to do. I learned um, from Dan Cathy, Chick Fil A. Got to hear him talk several times, and if you're not pushing forward, pushing the envelope, seeing what you need to do better, um, even if you're not number one, and I'm far from number one. Um, if you're not moving forward, you're going backwards. There's no such thing in the retail sales world as kind of maintaining. You might do that for a little bit, but yeah, you're either moving forward or going back. So I definitely feel we continue to move forward. So it's all good. Um, even with more challenges, I think once again running the store now versus 9 years ago is it's definitely more challenges for a number of reasons. But that's a video for a different day. What I really wanted to talk about, I don't know. Once again, I always when I walk my dogs Monday morning come up with topics and either forget them or once again I start talking and what I do a right turn, Clyde. Um, anyway, I was going to talk about 3D printing. I have um, several bamboos and got a loaner resin printer from Ike. Thanks, Ike. Um, it's a Haygears, very nice printer. Um, anyway, I'm doing a lot more printing. Once again, talking about eating up time. 3D printing is a hobby into itself. Black hole hobby. Uh, it's the more I learn, the more I learn I don't know, and continue to, especially when you get a new printer, uh, learning to use it effectively and efficiently, and especially with resin, truly still more of a lot of art in it. The Haygears, it's I would say equivalent to the bamboo for resin printer. Almost one click, but not quite there yet. Once again, I think as AI, um, if you will, develops and continues, and they integrate it into stuff like printers, I think it'd be more user friendly. Um, and I know as back, I mentioned this before. Also, is kind of like computers. As more and more people get computers, bigger demand, more manufacturing, the better they're going to get, and the prices will go down. But 3D printing, it's I still talk a lot, and still I don't say misunderstanding. It's not misunderstanding. It's not understanding. Filament printers are great for buildings, big objects. Um, Fat Dragon, and there's a couple other people that do STLs files. That's what you print as a ST. It's a format. It's like doing Excel. You got to have the right format. You can't open a Word document in Excel. Same thing with printing. You got to have the right format of file. Anyway, there are several people like Fat Dragon that are designing their STLs with filament printing in mind. And once again, as the filament printers get more advanced, better, you're going to be able to see more and more miniatures being able to print filament. Um, Resin printing is still for that, and it's not necessarily defined detail. It is. It's just the small pieces like fingers and weapons and swords. Um, the problem with those pieces, they're actually smaller than supports that you have to have. Printers can't print in midair. And once again, it's kind of the design of the files are different. Um, Resin printer prints from top to bottom, upside down, in layers. And filament printers, they print, it's like drawing, and it's from the ground up. Um, so once again, it needs to be a little different mentality when you design that stuff. Um, the quality in resin is much better. You think about it. It's a liquid, so it's almost like you pour liquid into the glass, and it's you can't really see the pieces. Whereas think of filament more of ice, even chipped ice. You put it in there, even if you crush it down, you can still see the individual pieces. Um, I don't know if that's a good analogy or not, but yeah, the fine detail. People talk about layer lines. I find, especially in buildings, and you can orient the filament printed piece to help with the lines, layer lines, where they're less, where you can't see them. Um, and I'm printing right now some buildings. They're for trench crusade, so they're worn, they're blown up, the rubble. You don't want them nice and neat. So once again, filament printing is perfect for that. And I'm learning because now I have two different types of resin printers. It's interesting. Once again, a lot of it is in the technology behind um, the processing of that STL file to make it readable by a printer. Um, I think that's where, once again, Hey Gears has got a little up on other people. Now, both the Hey Gears and the Bamboo, they use, if you will, proprietary stuff. That's not to say I can't run any filament or resin, which in my bamboos, I'm running mainly Elegoo, which is another uh, print manufacturer. And I've ran random stuff in my bamboos and really had no problems. Um, and the same thing with hay gears. You can run whatever resin you want, but once again, if it knows what you're using, it can set the parameters to when it prints for that resin or filament. I don't know if that makes any sense. It just it knows what the material is made of. So once again, it once again, their printers are smart enough. It knows the aspects, like the viscosity, the everything about that material. Instead of just using generic material, it knows what the material is. So it sets up its print parameters that way. And I really don't have a very good analogy of that. Well, I guess for those who paint, maybe you know uh, all the more advanced painters. They have a toolbox. They have several different types of paint, several different um, brands of paint, several different colors, and even within, like say, they have a red. They may have four different manufacturers of red, depending what they're using that red for. Is it a base? Are they wet blending? Are they dry brushing with it? And that's a toolbox. So they know, hey, I want it whatever red, Reaper red, to do this type of technique. Whereas me, I have red and I use it for everything. It's kind of would be the same way with printers. If you know what type of filament you use, the printer knows, can change its settings, if you will, based on that. Same thing with a painter. Uh, like I said, I use one red for everything, and I have one brush, whether I'm doing anything. So you still can get some good results, but if you use a different brush, if you use a different brand of paint, if you use a different type of paint, you're going to get better results. I don't know. Maybe that's a good analogy. But printing, I've started to pick up doing more printing for folks. With that, I've learned there's better files than others. It goes back to, once again, people design these files in some type of CAD type program. How are they designed? What are they designed for? I mentioned Fat Dragon. They designed their for filament. So once again, their whole design is based on, this is how a filament printer works. versus just a generic um, design. And how that's designed, how that piece is put together, how it's sculpted makes a huge difference. And no difference in, once again, if you're sculpting for metal, you're sculpting something for plastic injected molding, or you doing it for resin cast. You're going to go in with that initial how I design this um, model with different techniques. So I find, once again, when I do these files, some people are better than others, just like painting. Some of the models come out awesome. Some of them, even when I start to slice them, and I said that's when you pulled up in your program that converts that image, if you will, into something the printer can print. I can gotten enough, especially with the filament, tell, ooh, this is good design, this is a bad design. Um, I think one of the gold standards for me is printable scenery. Their their terrain is. I don't think I've ever had a failed print due to their design. I've had prints failed because of my printers or me doing something self-induced. Um, there's other out there that are really good. Tiredwood Studio, Tired World Studios, do Hexagon grade. Their stuff is awesome. There's several others that I use regularly um, that are good stuff. I've tried to print some other stuff people have found on Cults 3D or Thingiverse is just like either didn't print. I've had a couple didn't print at all. I gave up. They were just not good files, or just didn't quite come out the way they should. And once again, it's just like painter. Everybody's at different levels, different techniques, different skills. Same thing with resin printing. I found definitely in the last month I've got a lot different files. There's definitely better designers out there than others, and a lot of it go back to almost like painting. Um, a lot of it depends on what you're looking for in a model, the effect of the model. I'm not saying necessarily a bad sculpt or badly designed sculpt. It's just when I look at it, it's like a finished model. I'm like, I just really don't like this design. And another person will say, oh, that's the best miniature ever. So a lot of it comes down to taste, and also go back to the type of material you use, the printer you're using. That all you know makes a difference. I like two things I really like when people design, and I'm talking about mainly people putting stuff up on my manufacturer or doing a Kickstarter. I like a sample file. Give me something simple. Give me a wall. Give me a simple miniature. We download it for free and see what I think of it. Do I like the design? Is it well designed? Stuff like that. I like that, and um, I like in the comments. I was looking at some last night, and they had pictures of the stuff, but they didn't say what they printed the stuff. What was it designed for? Um, it was a tank for trench crusades. And was this meant to be filament printed? Was it meant to be resin printed? When they did their test prints, what type of printer did they um, do their test on? Makes a to me it makes a difference, and because once again, some, and I'm talking more like terrain and bigger pieces like tanks, some are okay to print either way, but knowing how they were designed is and what they're designed for really helps me end user out. Um, Another thing, I've been, and I know from a designer, um, when you're trying to recreate something, it's a challenge. How do you label something? Um, Goldenrod, they do Marcher, which is awesome stuff. So far for resin printing, it's been probably the best resin um, design models out there. But, and once again, this is not a negative, but they have so many pieces to a model. They're very modular. They're Germans, 140 different heads. So I could print a whole army where every miniature is different. But when you're trying to print that stuff, and most cases, you may have a picture, but they're not labeled, or you may not even have a picture. So the only way you can look it up is in your slicer. You have to pull up the file, look at it there, and once again, it's not a picture photograph. Sometimes it's even hard to tell exactly what it is. But when you got, like, say, 140 heads, and someone says, "Hey, I want 10 miniatures," well, which heads do you want? And they look at me like, "I want heads." Well, it can be a challenge for me to print stuff out, and or even if they say, "Hey, I want it like a picture," well, which heads did they use? Um, and like once with Marcher, their basic infantry, they got 10 to 12 different bodies. They may have anywhere 3 to 12 different weapons. They have two-handed weapons. They have one-handed weapon. Is it a right? Is it a left arm? Um, you can get so many combinations, and that's a challenge on me. Printing is, and it does take up time. Is having to look at all those files, uh, and making sure I do have 10 left arms, 10 right arms, and all that stuff. Um, in resin, I've just I was a little frustrated at first, but I've learned you are going to have a failure. It's not quite like filament. Filament, I can watch first 15 minutes. If I see something funky, I can stop it, restart it, not wasted much time and material. Even go back to the slicer, change something up, move it around, and redo the print. With resin, because it's printing upside down, and you really can't see it until it's done. So once again, that's a little challenge with resin printing. You may have a failure and don't know it until you're done. Then you have to figure out what piece it was, why did it fail, reprint it, all this stuff. Uh, so once again, people come to me and want stuff printed. Material is relatively cheap. I am using a little bit of resin. Um, I think it makes a bigger difference in resin than it does filament. Elegoo is quality. Any of the bigger names, they make quality stuff. I think Elegoo for my cost is a little cheaper than, say, like Bamboo. I do use the Bamboo colored. I do use their colored stuff, but just black and gray, I use Elegoo. So once again, a little cheaper. Resin, I bought too much resin stuff that was crap, and it was based on cheap resin versus. I don't use it really expensive, but I did definitely use probably medium range price resin. Um, it just makes a big difference. The resin I've been using in first print I got, I can drop the stuff on have out in the parking lot after I primed them, and they actually broke where I had them glued, not the resin. And I think that's what most people want. I bought resin stuff, I broke it putting it together, and I had one that I gave up on. I actually broke it painting. So this is stroke of a paintbrush had some weapons and some fingers on the hand, and I broke it painting. I'm like, yeah, no, that's crap. So the cost of the material, once again, is not too bad. Once again, what comes into is that time. Um, Generally speaking, resin is faster than filament. I can print, and once again, it's all relative. Uh, on filament, because it's like drawing, so the more detailed, say a brick building versus a building that's a straight, it's going to take a lot longer to do the brick building because it's got to draw every line versus just a flat wall. Um, Resin doesn't care as far as time because it does a layer, a layer, a layer, a layer. So it doesn't really matter how detailed that is. It does a layer, it does a layer. So once again, it's more based on the size of what you're printing. Whereas once again, a filament, it is kind of based on size, but more on detail. Um, I find resin, there's a lot, I spend a lot more time slicing it, make sure it's supported, doesn't fill on the build plate because of it really doesn't depend on size. I do try to fill up the build plate because the more I get on that plate, it's going to do the same amount of time. Whereas filament, once again, it's based on more of the detail. So a lot of times I may not fill up the build plate because, I start getting anything over 12-hour print, I get nervous about power. Um, is it, you know, more failure issues? So I try to keep prints under 12 hours. So I may break some, like a building that's 2 or 3 floors. I may just print each floor instead of trying to put it all on the build plate. Well, once again, as wet resin, I've learned I don't want to push the edges of the build plate, but um, the more stuff in, especially you're talking about just miniature figures, I will try to get as much stuff on that as I can. Um, so once again, different mentality. But with that, I feel like it takes more time to set up with the resin. It takes longer to slice it, longer to do everything up front, and then also on the back end, cleaning. Whether you're using water based or regular resin, it's just messy. It's messy, and you have to take special precautions. Got to wear gloves. Have a vented room. Um, all that stuff, and it just takes longer. You got to wash it. You got to cure it. So while most cases resin is faster physically to print, I found some stuff takes longer because of the setup time, the cleanup time, and all that stuff. So where am I going with that? Um, you're talked to several people over since I've been printing, and I kind of feel like they think I should be able to print something for a couple bucks. Material wise, maybe, but once again, if it takes the printer 12 hours to print something, it's a service. So I need to charge for that time because at some point I am going to have to replace that printer. I've paid the cost of that printer up front, but I need to be able to pay for that printer. And once again, my time. That's where with resin stuff, I really need to look at my time, like I said, the processing time to slice it, and then the cleanup time to clean it up. Some stuff cleans up really easy. Some stuff, because of sports, it's a pain in the butt and takes a while. So once again, you are paying a service for people's time. Um, and right now, because I am doing this in the store, it is taking my time while I'm at the store. You know, I am trying to make some money off of it. I've watched many videos and stuff. People talk about the Lord of Wars, talking about great discussions on it. How many miniatures do you have to print to make as much money as you sell off one big box of Games Workshop stuff? A lot of minis. A lot of minis. Then you divide that by your time. You're like, wow, I can sell one big box of Games Workshop minis, and let's say make $100. Whereas if I print minis and I'm making, let's say, $1 a mini, profit wise, I'd have to do 100 minis. So let's say I do 10 minis per build plate. Well, I have to do 10 build plates, and it takes 2 hours, say 3 hours to do build. That's 30 hours of printing. So once again, the time, and once again, at some point, I'm going to have to replace something on the printer. Not necessarily printer, there is consumables. Then you do have the cost of the material. So once again, it's making money printing miniatures. Yeah, I think you can, but it's kind of like selling magic cards. You can make money to sell magic cards, but really to make money and run your store off it, you have to kind of be all in. So, and right now with 3D printing, is there that much demand? Not here. I enjoy it. It is a hobby. I am starting making a few dollars here and there for the store. So, and I'm learning more. So it's still as much a hobby as anything for me. So, yeah, that's a little insight to 3D printing. I've rambled now for over 30 minutes. Wow. So I think I'm going to wrap it up. I think hopefully maybe give you a little people insight at 3D printing, just in general, and a little bit my thoughts on it. So, yeah, it's been 30 minutes. Appreciate everybody coming out. Continue to support the stores. We get more and more events going on. We're going to start some Kings of War stuff down the road, Moonstone, all the road games. We're trying to get something going just about every night. Probably not Monday nights, just because it's a little slow, and I'm doing other stuff like videos and ordering it and everything. But I hope everybody has a great week, and we'll see you soon. Take care. Hello. Can't find my mouse. Here we are. Thank you.